Yo, welcome to the Trippy Show, and it is time for football, and even better, fantasy football. Week 1 has arrived. It is time for the New England Patriots to defend their championship, which they probably cheated to get, maybe deflated some balls, maybe put some cameras in some interesting places to steal some plays, whatever.
Maybe stole some play sheets.
We're not here to say because, quite frankly, if I could steal to win some games in my fantasy season, I probably would.
Probably have.
Maybe. I've won some championships. I'm not going to say how. I'm RJ here with Trippy K-Mac.
What's going on, everybody?
And let's go ahead and get into it, man. Week 1 is finally here.
Yeah.
And let's delve right into the Pittsburgh Steelers having to travel to Foxborough to play the New England Patriots. Not exactly an easy game for the Steelers, especially without Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
I see so many people that are very high on Roethlisberger. I'm starting to question that without Martavis Bryant, without Le'Veon Bell. This is going to be a big test.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough start for them, but fortunate for the Steelers, the Patriots secondary is nothing what it was last year. So
it's true.
That might give, kind of balance it out a little bit. But, you're right. They're missing two key aspects of their team that they had last year. So obviously he's got Antonio Brown. He's still got his favorite target, Heath Miller. So I think he's going to be okay, but it's not going to be as good as it would have been with having those two players.
Yeah, so as far as the Pittsburgh Steelers, there's really only two guys to look at. Roethlisberger, you have to start him. Week 1, it's hard to tell anybody to really bench people. You drafted these guys as your starter.
Yeah.
But Pittsburgh Steelers, you do have Antonio Brown. Must start. Came into the season as the number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
And I probably would rank him number 1. Considering the Patriots have no Darrelle Revis, and they lost their top 3 cornerbacks.
Yeah, and a guy that's actually been overlooked in a lot of leagues, and I know our league went really late. I actually went a little too late on him and couldn't get him, is Marcus Wheaton. Obviously, he's going to be in that role now. And it was kind of interesting before the season had started. Ben Roethlisberger was really praising Wheaton, saying he was going to have a big year already. Mm-hmm. So now with no Martavis Bryant, that puts him already number 2, which they already said he was going to be moving into that number 2 slot anyway. I didn't really buy it because I think Bryant's the better playmaker out of the two. But it's good to have. If you have Wheaton, I would definitely start him here in week 1 because they're going to need him.
We saw Wheaton in that number 2 role last year next to Antonio Brown. He really didn't do anything. Of course, Martavis Bryant came in, dominated. And anybody who picked him up late in the draft, he's going to come back after 4 games. I think he's going to be a solid wide receiver once you get him back. Exactly. So nothing else really to talk about Pittsburgh other than those 2 players. We can't wait to get Le'Veon Bell. I do want to mention that I do not recommend playing D'Angelo Williams really up to maybe like a 12 or 14 team league unless you're totally stranded at running back, which could be the case.
Maybe, I guess.
Yeah, I just don't recommend him at all. He hasn't impressed me the past, 6 seasons? It's been so long since he was a good running back.
And the Steelers are without Marquise Pouncey, who's a big leader on that offensive line. So they're not going to have him all season long, which is another reason why I kind of downgraded Le'Veon Bell just a little bit. Not very much, but not having that big piece, your center on your offensive line, could shake things up for him.
That's true. And let's talk about the New England Patriots. This is crazy how they get Tom Brady out of nowhere in our draft. I was really hoping he'd fall. Not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not sure that exactly happened. Federal court can step in and tell a private company what to do. It's kind of crazy.
That's amazing. So before we get into their fantasy prospects, what do you think about the news? How, obviously they've been caught for multiple years cheating. And they're saying it goes all the way back to, I think, 2000 when they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well, apparently if you don't have any proof, it's not going to matter anymore because they'll just appeal it to the court and then, they get clean. So,
all right, well, let me ask you a question. Say we're playing some poker. We're sitting at a table, and I'm doing better than you. I'm making more money than you. But then you find out that I was cheating the whole time. Does that mean I'm a better poker player than you?
No, but
that means I'm cheating.
You're cheating, and I'll probably create bounty gate on you, and then we're both cheating. So,
oh really?
Yeah. That's what's gonna have to happen if they're doing this stuff, and the teams and the players know that they're doing this stuff. But they can't get suspended because there's no actual physical proof, but they know what's going on. Tell you what, Tom Brady better watch out because if they know the stuff's going on, they're gonna try to take him out during the game because that's the only time you can get to him. So. You gotta kind of watch out.
I don't see that. He's a quarterback. They're watching those guys like a hawk.
There's been some people that have been pretty vocal about coming out and saying, hey, we've kind of known they've been cheaters for a while. So Hey, I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. When we saw those kids in the high school game take out the referee
Terrible.
in the game,
They're
and I
coming
wouldn't
down
put
on
it
the
past
coach.
it, and they wouldn't even get arrested for it. It would just be a cheap hit. They'd probably get a flag.
All right, well, let's look at it this way. Of course, you and I play some golf pretty much all the time. What if you found out that, of course, I'm doing better than you, but you find out that I'm cheating. I'm kind of slipping my ball into some easier to hit spots all of a sudden. Maybe I'm teeing up the second shot. Am I better than you? No.
No.
I was cheating.
Exactly.
I shouldn't get the championship, should I?
Well, not if you're cheating, but if I never saw you actually moving your ball, then I have to take your word for it, which is probably what happens most of the time we golf. And so there you go. I can't say anything about
You
it.
got no proof, man. I'm like the Patriots.
That's right.
Let's talk about their fantasy prospects here. Tom Brady's definitely going to have a good game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, whose defense does not impress us at all.
Nah, secondary is pretty weak.
Here's the question I have for the Patriots. Other than Gronk, their wide receivers do not seem like a threat. You do have Julian Edelman, who's great for just picking your way down the field, occasional big play.
Yeah.
None other of the wide receivers there really scare me.
No, they really don't. And actually, they have Brandon LaFell's out for I think the first 6 weeks of the season. So that really hurts them there, not having him. It was so bad they tried resurrecting Reggie Wayne and trying to having to go at that. That didn't work. So I don't know what the Patriots are going to do. I imagine they're going to have to try to make some type of trade and bring in a wide receiver because you're right now, there's not really much to fear other than Gronkowski. I mean, like you said, Edelman's good for the underneath routes, but Edelman doesn't work unless there's a deep threat. So they're still kind of lacking that. But yeah, obviously Gronkowski must start. Tom Brady's still a must start because they'll find a way to get it done. He'll have a couple touchdowns.
Absolutely,
game,
man.
so.
I wish I got him in our league, and I see him as a definite top 5 quarterback this year.
Yeah, for sure.
He's got the weapons, considering you have Gronk, you have some pretty decent, I think, pass-catching running backs. None of them really scare me. I mean, LeGarrette Blount, when he gets back, he's not really going to do too much damage out of the passing game. But and I'd
like to see White. He looked good during
Deion
preseason,
Lewis
so
is finally going to make his debut for the
but
Patriots.
My thing with the Patriots, I've never liked owning a running back for the Patriots just because they don't care about guys having stats. It's a full-on team effort with Belichick and those running backs. I mean, any running back will go into any situation, and then if that running back fumbles one time, they're like, they're freaking banned. Or if they show up late to a meeting, they're done. So fantasy-wise, you're like, shit, who do I start here this week? Because there's 3 running backs, and who knows who's going to have the good game.
Yeah, like you said, Gronk is a must start. I was really surprised that last year he did not get any major injuries. We'll see if he can do it 2 years in a row. He said in a couple interviews that all of his injuries are behind him, and maybe for a freak like him, that's the case.
Oh, or what if he was partying too much in the offseason after winning the Super Bowl?
Very possible.
So you always got to worry about the Super Bowl hangover, but I don't know. Patriots are always going to be competitive, so tough game to say. Like first week is always the hardest for me to predict what teams are going to do because we really haven't seen anything yet from any of these teams. And we've seen little bits and pieces here and there, but it's not full 100% game time. So
yeah, and no way I'm picking against the Patriots in this game in our predictions here. I'm definitely picking the Patriots. They're at home. They're going to be celebrating a Super Bowl championship.
Yeah,
and they're not on the road where they're going to get booed.
And it's Thursday night, so really anything could happen. We've seen some teams on Thursday nights, like the Steelers, put up 3 points the whole game. So just a warning out there, if you do have guys starting on Thursday nights, it's just for some reason Thursday night games.
Oh, random as hell.
Yeah,
man.
I hate when you have Thursday nights games because it just seems like there are guys that you really need to come through. If they play Thursday nights, they won't do shit. They're going to piss you off. The team's going to piss you off. It's going to be an ugly game, and that's what happens when you only have 4 days between your next game.
That's true. Definitely more random. So the next game is the Green Bay Packers at the Chicago Bears. What are you looking at with the Green Bay Packer offense? No Jordy Nelson. I think we all know Randall Cobb is definitely going to be good, but is there any other players that you think are going to step up?
Yeah, that's the major question there. Obviously, Devontae Adams is going to be the guy.
You think he's a definite?
Yeah, I think he's a he was last year. They were already kind of grooming him into that role of being more of a an every down receiver. So I think he is. Jeff Janis is a guy that I think is still he's on his way there, but he's not there yet. So I really think Devontae Adams is probably the only other receiver that you're going to want to own in that for Green Bay.
No James Jones? I mean, that's a definite interesting proposal there.
It is interesting. It's an interesting pickup for Green Bay, and who knows? I mean, obviously we know what James Jones was able to do there previously. So can they rekindle that chemistry? I'm not sure. Is it the same James Jones though that we had 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
That's when Jordy Nelson was healthy. Now you're saying Jordy's not there. You only have Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams. You don't know what you have out of him. No tight end. They don't have Jermichael Finley anymore.
I mean, Richard Rodgers is not even it's not even fantasy worthy. I mean, you might want to pick him up, but he's not that good of a tight end. So just to have the Rodgers effect, the Rodgers rub, if you will, is the only reason you might want to pick him up and see what's going to happen. Because, I mean, yeah, if James Jones can't come on this team and be productive, it's going to be a lot more challenging for Green Bay to win games because Jordy Nelson was a huge part of that offense.
As far as the other Green Bay Packer offensive players, there's really not much to say. They're all studs. Aaron Rodgers, Eddie Lacy. Lucky for you if you do have one of those guys in this matchup. They're going to be very good.
Yeah.
Chicago has a terrible defense. What do you know about Alshon Jeffrey? It looks like he'll play.
It looks like they're optimistic that he will come back and be able to play for that game, which the Bears are going to need, man. They're going to be hurting that wide receiver. You already lose Kevin White, so... Bears are really struggling there. I like Marty B. Martell's Bennett to me. I think he will be one of the top tight ends this year.
Really?
Yeah, just because we saw it last year, even towards the end of the season. He was really starting to get utilized in the end zone. And you got a banged up Alshon Jeffrey. Marty B is your only guy to go to there in the end zone that's big enough that's going to be able to catch the ball. And Cutler already likes him. He's kind of shown it. So as long as Bennett can stay healthy, I think he's going to have a great year just because they've lost receivers and they really have no other weapons between Martellus Bennett and Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah, too bad that Kevin White got injured.
Yeah.
John Fox really doesn't like rookies too much, so maybe we wouldn't have seen too much from him anyways. But as far as the Chicago Bears, I really thought Matt Forte was highly underrated in a lot of people's draft boards. He's one of those safety picks. I wanted to get him in a lot of leagues, but he was at this weird spot that was hard to grab. Anyways, I really like Matt Forte in this matchup against the Packers.
If I would have been drafting later in the draft, I probably would have scooped up Matt Forte just because I like him. But I didn't have a chance to pick him up there with draft in the beginning of the first round.
Yeah, so not too much to talk about as far as this matchup is concerned. These guys are studs. If you're going to start them, there's no questioning, am I going to start Randall Cobb, Matt Forte, maybe Martellus Bennett if you have another solid tight end. You seem to like him quite a bit. I'm a little bit worried about him in this matchup. Packers have very solid linebackers. Clay Matthews.
And safeties.
Yeah, very good safeties. Clinton Dix in his second year. But Clay Matthews, they're going to play more in middle linebacker this year. Last year, he was really flourishing out of that position.
He didn't like it, so it's going to be interesting to see how it goes because he was very vocal about wanting to go back to the outside.
So. That's where the money is.
Yeah, and that's kind of his position. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out and see if he can become accustomed to middle linebacker. I mean, obviously, fantasy-wise, I think it upgrades him because he's going to get more tackles now on a consistent basis. The problem with him before, for people that play IDP, is that, he would have those big sacks in those games, but other than that, he's going to have 2 or 3 tackles in the game, and that's not going to help you as a linebacker in fantasy. You want to have someone that's getting 9, 10 tackles a game every single week. So with him at the middle, because I remember I picked him up last year when he got moved to middle linebacker. I was like, oh, man, he's going to get a ton of tackles, and he did. He was getting 10 tackles. He was even getting sacks. He was a beast at middle linebacker.
Oh, yeah.
And they throw him back to outside linebacker again. I was like, oh, shit, I got to drop him now. So...
Yeah, definitely interesting, and I hope they play him at middle. Hopefully he likes it because, like you said, he was playing great. He was definitely beastly there in that position.
Yep.
So, picking this game, I'm going with the Packers all day, no doubt about it.
Yeah, they're going to go. Chicago's going to have a rough season. Their defense is terrible. And like we mentioned, the Packers' defense actually, to me, is better right now than it's been in a while. So that might be able to put the Packers over the top because that's been their weakness, is that defense has been really weak. I really feel that they're kind of molding it, and it's becoming a little bit tougher of a defense now. So,
yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people's Super Bowl favorites, rightfully so.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are traveling to the Texans. This is a game that's really up. It's a coin flip here. It's up to the fantasy gods to know if the offenses will be able to do anything against these two good defenses.
Yeah.
And I'm worried at using any of the guys in this game offensively.
Yeah, I am too. I mean, obviously, I'm going to be starting Charles and Macklin in this game.
That's true.
The Texans do have that great defensive line, but I feel the Texans secondary, I think Macklin's going to have no problem getting open. making plays. Jamal Charles, he's obviously going to have to catch some screen passes because it's going to be tough to be running up the middle on that crazy defensive line that they have.
Yeah, once again, no way in hell you're going to bench Jamal Charles, but I'm very worried about him. I'm worried about any running back that goes against the Houston Texans.
Only thing I can say is that it's week 1, so they might come out and be, not ready to go completely and hit him real quick. Nice 70-yard touchdown run right off the beginning of the game, and then they can start shutting them down after that.
Yeah, and it's funny how you, as far as the Texans' offense, you really don't want to play any of those guys, but I do think they're going to win, and they're going to have to score some points.
I mean, Hopkins, I think, is going to get his targets. He's going to make his plays. Alfred Blue, I just haven't seen much from him. I'm sure he's a free agent in most people's leagues, even though he's going to be the starter. But it's kind of disappointing watching him run. It just does not work. Obviously, they're going to get Arian Foster back eventually, maybe even next month. So that's going to help them out a lot. But I got to go with the Chiefs to take this one. And really, besides the defensive players, I'm starting every defensive player that I have that plays on either one of these teams. But on the offensive side, I think the Chiefs players are the only ones that I can go with this week, and that's Jamal Charles and Macklin.
Oh, yeah. I do want to give a shout-out to everybody in the live stream chat. Shout-out to Potato Power. If any of you guys have questions, throw them out there. We'll definitely answer them during the stream. And you guys can catch this stream every Wednesday. We'll definitely give you the updates on that.
One guy we didn't mention here, Travis Kelce. Do you think he's going to be a viable everyday, every week starter at tight end for a fantasy team?
I'm questioning him highly. A lot of people seemed extremely high on Kelce. I didn't know what the hell was going on. I'm higher on a lot of sleeper guys like Owen Daniels. Owen Daniels, I think Peyton Manning's probably going to look for him a little bit for some touchdowns. Guys like that over a Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Kansas City's offense, I do not trust them from a passing perspective. I think they only have enough for maybe one guy to produce.
Yeah.
In this case, it's probably going to turn into Jeremy Maclin because he's so good. So there's no way that it's going to produce enough for both Maclin and Kelce to prosper. It just doesn't make sense in my book because you also have a lot of passing yardage going to Jamal Charles.
Well, the only thing that Travis Kelce's going to have going for him is the play action, where he's going to be able to find space. And then, Travis Kelce on any other team is going to be a beast at tight end because the guy can play. He's a hell of an athlete. He's almost like Gronkowski in a lot of ways the way he plays. So I think any other team, he does put up big numbers every week. But basically, that's how he's going to work, is off the play action and hope that he's open over the middle of the field or can make some type of plays. So
and it makes sense that would work.
It makes it tough. It's kind of frustrating to have a tight end like that, to where you're not sure, man, are they going to be trying to get him the ball every single down, or is he just another piece in our offense that we're going to throw to when our big guys aren't open?
But the reason for that, K-Mac, is because the quarterback is a noodle arm. That's what happens. You don't have an Eli Manning or, one of these guys with a strong arm, Phillip Rivers, whipping it around everywhere.
Yeah.
You have Alex Smith, who's, matriculating the ball down the field, is great for winning, especially with a team with a great defense. That's a good thing. We'll see. Their defense has fallen off in the past few seasons. I think they'll get off to a good start in this one against Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, especially Eric Berry coming back too. So
nice. We'll definitely be looking forward to watching Eric Berry. Is there any other guys you want to mention here? I think we ran through the gamut. You said DeAndre Hopkins' name. I think you have to start him, of course.
Yeah, that's probably the only guy I'm starting in that offense.
I'm worried about him. He was drafted very high. Way too high for me.
I'm worried about him too. Hoyer hasn't really shown me much in his NFL career, so it's really going to hurt him.
Starting?
Yeah, it's really going to hurt him. I'm happy for Andre Johnson that he finally got the hell out of Houston. Expect big things out of him from in Indy, but yeah, that's pretty much it. Obviously, the defense, J.J. Watt, no doubt. Obviously,
defense is going to win the game for the Texans.
Exactly. A guy like Jonathan Joseph, cornerback, is a guy I would start if you have a cornerback slot that you need to fill.
IDP?
Yeah, IDP. But what do you think about Clowney for an IDP perspective? I heard
we play IDP, and I've seen him at the linebacker position. Of course, I like a tackle guy for a linebacker position, but maybe Jadeveon Clowney turns into someone on Kansas City's team, Justin Houston.
Yeah.
That would make him fierce. I think from a real-life perspective, we just want him to get sacks, so he's productive. There's no reason he should not be able to get sacks with J.J. Watt, with these other players in there. It's definitely going to open it up.
I think he's going to be, I always say that defensive ends, really what he's playing is a defensive end. He's going to be listed as a linebacker because they're running the 3-4, so he's going to be that outside linebacker.
Yeah.
But basically, he's going to be blitzing every single play and playing a defensive position. And really, I think it's one of the hardest positions to cross over from college into the NFL. We see a lot of good defensive ends that seem to struggle their first couple seasons, and then all of a sudden, like Mario Williams did, they become beasts, and they're really good defensive ends. I mean, it's really hard to I can't really think of the last true rookie defensive end that had a great season. It's always takes a little while to get them going, but once they get going,
it's true.
They're really good. And I think that's going to happen to Clowney. I'm not sure it's going to happen yet. I mean, this is his first real playing that we're going to see. It's going to take him a little while to get adjusted, but maybe if you have the dynasty. If you're in one of those where you can hold on to players
IDP
and you're playing
dynasty,
and you're playing IDP, then I would keep him and carry him over the next season.
Who are you picking in this one?
I'm doing the Chiefs, man. Yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to win this one pretty easily, actually.
All right. Of course, I picked the Texans. That's interesting that you'd go with the Chiefs on the road. We'll see if they can score. Jamal Charles might have to carry him.
I have
on
no
the
trust
back.
in the Texans. I mean, maybe J.J. Watt gets like 3 interceptions
I'm
for
calling
touchdowns.
shutout.
It's possible, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to shut out the Kansas City's offense. I think they're a lot better than that.
Damn, I have J.J. Watt, IDP. I forgot they line him up at tight end sometimes. Hopefully I can
you might
scoop
come
up
away
some
with a touchdown or
touchdowns.
two if the Texans win.
So we have the Browns traveling to the Jets. As far as the Browns offense is concerned, absolutely nothing. I like Isaiah Crowell. I think he's underrated, but not in this matchup. Not startable against the Jets. I think the Browns are going to look terrible.
Yeah, and I guess Duke Johnson actually is going to be used in this game. They're talking about using him more in the third downs, kind of the passing situation.
Yeah.
So
He's
it's going to
a
be
great
interesting to
receiver.
see. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how Duke Johnson can play. Let's see if he's completely healthy and see what kind of burst he has. But other than that, I mean,
We liked Duke Johnson a lot coming out of college.
Yeah.
I love him as a running back. The fact that he's already a better receiver than Isaiah Crowell, that gives him a direct link to on the field playing time, especially like third and long, stuff like that, where you're going to get a lot of fantasy points.
Yeah, well, I agree, and I mean this Cleveland Browns offense. There's not a whole lot of good to talk about. I mean that's what we're talking about here is the running game. That's about the only thing because they have a good offensive line. I mean this offensive line is a very skilled offensive line. So this running game to me, a fantasy standpoint, it's about the only thing that stands out. I mean, if you want to go with like an Andrew Hawkins or something like that, I would actually go Taylor Gabriel be the only reach I would go with on this team because he's the only guy that has a chance to hit the 7-yard touchdown pass. That might be his only catch in the game, but that's what that guy is going to do. So other than that, none of these receivers are startable. And I'd have a tough time even starting a running back with this offense right now for week 1 because we have no idea what we're going to get here. Josh McCown, I don't know.
Yeah, nothing. I think Josh McCown's going to look terrible. We're going to see Johnny Manziel, who might be fantasy relevant with his running ability. That's something to look out for. Of course, really not worth a stash. There's a lot of other guys like Mariota that you probably want to stash before him. But look for Manziel to come in because Josh McCown will be terrible. The receivers are no good. Nothing to speak of there.
No.
We'll see if the running backs can be good, which will be more in easier matchups where you don't have good defensive lines.
Yeah, exactly. And with the Browns, it's tough that right now they don't have a good offense because I think their defense is much improved. I think their defense is really stacked. They're starting to really bring around the players to have a really solid defense. And, I mean, their secondary is already one of the better ones I feel in the league. You got Joe Hayden, Tayshaun Gibson, Dante Whitner, all guys that are very skilled players. And then the addition of Carlos Dansby last year at linebacker obviously helps solidify their linebacker crew. They just need to get that defensive line get going. And, I mean, this defense is going to be productive.
Yeah, I don't like anybody on the Browns whatsoever. I think they're going to be the worst team in the NFL this season.
Yeah, that could be. I mean,
as far as the New York Jets concerned, this is an interesting team. Finally, I have an interesting question I could ask you when it comes to one of these teams. A lot of these guys have been pretty obvious so far.
Yeah.
But you have the Jets with 2 good real-life wide receivers. I mean, both Eric Decker and Brandon Marshall are great receivers, and I think they're upper echelon receivers. But will they actually get the production?
Well, I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be the starting quarterback, so they could. I mean, we've seen Ryan Fitzpatrick have some decent games, or at least wide receivers that Fitzpatrick is thrown to have decent games. So, I mean, Brandon Marshall is still at the top of his game. He's still a really good wide receiver. Just because he's on the Jets is not going to make Brandon Marshall a bad receiver. Exactly, Eric Decker. And I feel, I mean, from a fantasy standpoint, we look at it, Geno Smith last year with Decker, and we're like, that really hurts Decker. But Decker still had some decent games last year, so... really, both these guys, I would start this week if I had them. I think Fitzpatrick will be able to at least do enough to get these guys opportunities. And I'm going with Chris Ivory this week as well. They really want him to be kind of that bell cow back for this team this year. And like I said, with the Browns' weak defensive line,
It's a good matchup for him.
it's a really good matchup for him there. But that's basically it for the Jets. I mean,
Would you start both wide receivers? You have Joe Hayden on Brandon Marshall.
yeah. Oh, I think I still do. I mean, I think Brandon Marshall is still a better receiver, and he can definitely get open against Joe Hayden. I mean, I know Joe Hayden's a great cornerback, but I don't think he's completely locked down. We've seen some games before where Joe Hayden has gotten beat, especially with a bigger receiver like Brandon Marshall.
All right. I'm going to go with the Jets easily in this game.
Yeah, and the thing is with Brandon Marshall is you got to look at this line. I mean, Jeff Cumberland, Kellen Davis, these aren't really the greatest receiving tight ends. So when you get down in the red zone, who are they going to be looking at? Your big possession receiver, Brandon Marshall. So
How many times are you going to get to the red zone? That's the question.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of crazy, but I think this offense might be a little more productive without Geno Smith. Geno Smith, to me, a lot of games last year looked terrible. Towards the end of the season, kind of started getting it going. But he just makes really dumb decisions sometimes. That I think Fitzpatrick, if he can just not make the mistakes and just make the throws and let Brandon Marshall do his thing and really let your running game try to kind of carry the team, I think they can be successful.
Yeah. Personally, I am picking the Jets, like I said, in this game. But from a fantasy perspective, I do not like any of the wide receivers here at all. I do like Chris Ivory because I think the offense is going to be productive. I don't think there's enough production for both of them to prosper. You're going to see both guys kind of edge each other out. Maybe some games you have one touchdown and a little bit of yardage there for Brandon Marshall, and other games you have a lot of yardage for Eric Decker. It's going to be really hard to gauge that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go with any of those guys. I pretty much stayed away from them, unless maybe Brandon Marshall dropped like a fly. But I'm not going to start any of those guys in this game either. Hopefully you guys have somebody better to start. And definitely start Chris Ivory, like we said. That's definitely somebody to look forward to watching for the New York Jets. Are you picking the Jets as well?
Yeah, I'm going with the Jets, man. Their defense is stout. The Browns might not even get a touchdown in this game, so now it could be rough.
Absolutely, man. No, I'm not going to watch that one. Any Browns and Jets fans listening, have fun watching that one. We'll watch the Colts versus the Bills. This is an excellent matchup. We got the Bills, the debut of LaShawn McCoy, who is going to play in this game. And the Colts, Andrew Luck, man, they might be one of the favorites for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, their offense is definitely my favorite for, best offensive team this year. But, man, I would start T.Y. Hilton for sure. Andre Johnson, like I said, I think he's going to have a huge year. I mean, here's a guy that is still one of the better receivers in the game. Unfortunately, he's been in Houston, which hasn't had a good passing game in years. So I still think Andre Johnson has enough in the tank to worth him. With T.Y. Hilton over the top and then Andrew Luck throwing him the ball, these guys are going to put up big numbers this year.
Oh, yeah. Start all of your Colts, that's for sure. Even though the Bills' defense is going to be pretty good, they can't stop the Colts.
With Colts offense, Frank Gore, they're coming out saying they're going to have kind of a pitch count on him. Does that kind of worry you if you're a Frank Gore owner, or do you still go with him?
You got to start him. I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of him to begin with, but if you look at the Colts running backs last year, a lot of them played good. They're not that great to begin with. Ahmad Bradshaw, you knew he was going to get injured any week, but he was healthy 9 weeks into the season, and he was pretty fucking good. So I think you're going to see the same out of Frank Gore. Even if he doesn't get that many attempts, he's not going to need that many as long as they give it to him on the one.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to get touchdowns. And Frank Gore is pretty damn consistent, pretty reliable guy. Even in, when the 49ers had some seasons there with some really rough offensive lines, he's still been able to put through. Hopefully there's enough in the tank there. And I think him being, coming in with Andre Johnson, his old teammate at Miami, is really going to kind of bring the two of them together and say, hey, look, we have a chance to go to the Super Bowl here with this team. So, I mean, you could expect big things out of both those guys.
No doubt about it.
Kind of a last chance. Here we go. This is our last chance here,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be definitely fun to watch. They're going to be one of the better teams all NFL season long.
Yeah.
Start all your Colts. Now, the Buffalo Bills, on our personal team, or our number one league, I have two Bills, and I'm really high on both guys. I don't like having two main offensive players, but I do have Sammy Watkins and LaShawn McCoy.
Yep.
We'll start off with their quarterback, Tyrod Taylor.
Yep.
This is a running quarterback, so from a fantasy perspective, this is extremely interesting.
Well, it is, but the thing is as well, for you, Sammy Watkins is the only guy that I am starting as far as the receivers for the Bills because of that reason. You got a running quarterback here. There's not going to be a lot of distribute. They're not going to distribute the passes out all over the field. It's not going to be that kind of system like Peyton Manning's running, where he's dropping back, he's reading the defense, and he's going to hit the open guy no matter who it is. No, this is going to be more plays set up for Tyrod Taylor to have an easy read, get out of the pocket, make the throw, and that's Sammy Watkins all day. That's what he's going to do. He's going to be hitting those deep crossing routes across the field where Tyrod Taylor's going to roll out and hit him deep. Mm-hmm. I mean, Sammy Watkins is going to be their guy, and he's going to be one of the better wide receivers, I feel, this year, just because on talent alone. If they can just get a consistent quarterback that can throw him the ball, I think he's going to do good. Because, you were worried about him last year, and he still had a pretty good season last year with E.J. Manuel, a whole slew of different quarterbacks starting here week in after week out. So definitely see Sammy Watkins stepping up this year and being good. And LaShawn McCoy, that's what the Bills need to do. Run the damn football. You got Tyrod Taylor who can run, so do a lot of the lead option type plays. Do a lot of that kind of stuff. Get McCoy going because McCoy's still got a lot in the tank, and the Bills really need to utilize that.
Mm-hmm. Are you worried as far as Sammy Watkins? Are you worried about Vontae Davis at all? One of the better quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah, I'm really not because, like I said, I feel a lot of it's going to be based off of play action, and a lot of it is going to be Sammy Watkins basically crossing the field. So even if he is covering one-on-one, those are kind of the situations where the receiver really is going to have an advantage. And if you're running a crossing route, all it takes is one step to get ahead of that cornerback, and you got him, and you're going to be gone as long as if you have a good throw. So it's tough. It'd be hard for me to have Sammy Watkins as my number one guy. Mm-hmm. If I had him like a number 3 or something like that, I'd feel a little better right now, just because we really don't know what we're going to see out of the Bills. It's kind of how it is every single season. Mm-hmm. So maybe for the first 2 weeks, just take a look at that, and if you have other guys that you can start that you feel a little more comfortable are going to come through, you might want to start them and just see what this offense is going to do with Tyrod Taylor, because they could end up getting shut out, and Sammy Watkins gets nothing if Tyrod Taylor comes out and shits a brick. So.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Buffalo Bills offense this year. I think they're a super sleeper just because I'm a fan of Tyrod Taylor. I think he's a good quarterback, and LaShawn McCoy, that's going to open up some things in the passing game automatically. They're not going to win this game or come even close. I picked the Colts all day. And
then with Rex Ryan, new coach and everything, so just a lot of question marks there. But I feel good about those players for the Bills. But I like to see it happen first before I go and throw my number one wide receiver out there.
Mm-hmm. So who are you picking here? The Colts?
Yeah, I got to go with the Colts in this one. On the road, which is kind of crazy because we tend to pick the home team. It's kind of been proven the home team generally will come away with a win, but so far we're picking the away. I'm picking the away teams at least.
Now we are very excited here for the kickoff of the 2015 NFL season. I think we have to grab a bottle. I have one in the freezer. I forgot to grab it. We need to take a shot here.
Okay.
But in the meantime, while I grab that, we've made it to an epic battle between the Miami Dolphins and the Washington Redskins.
Oh, the Redskins. Jesus.
Ryan Tannehill, what do you think about him?
I like Ryan Tannehill a lot this year. I like the Dolphins a lot here this year. I think they might actually have a chance to give the Patriots a run for their money. I like everything about them. Jarvis Landry is one of my favorite receivers. I think he's a guy that if you got him late in the draft, you really scored big because I think he's going to have a huge season. And then Lamar Miller, I think he's going to step up and have a much better season this year. And just going back to Tannehill, we've only seen progression with this guy. He came in the league, he was throwing interceptions left and right. We're all laughing, they're like, damn, Tannehill's terrible. Next season comes around, we're like, all right, Tannehill's doing a little better. And then last season comes around, like, damn, Tannehill looks pretty good at the end of the season. And then what we've seen so far in preseason, he's been pretty much lights out. So if he can continue that here into the season, he's definitely got weapons to throw to. They pick up Jordan Cameron, so if they can start using him in this offense, it's only going to help him out. And, you look for...
That's true. I like how they are giving all these weapons to Ryan Tannehill. They're giving him no excuses.
Yep.
And he's one of those guys where you looked at his stats at the end of the year, and it's surprising. It's like, damn, he was undervalued in a lot of leagues.
And a lot of things that are overlooked with him is how many rushing yards he gets. And he gets rushing touchdowns. Exactly. Tannehill runs the football, and he's always done that. Mm-hmm. He's not the fastest guy, but he finds ways to get away from the defense and finds open holes and takes off for 10, 15 yards and goes out of bounds.
Yeah. I have one more question about the Miami Dolphins. Shout out to all you guys in Miami. I talked to a lot of Dolphin fans. We're here in Tampa Bay, Florida, so we have a lot of Dolphin fans in town. Of course, not far away from Miami.
Yeah.
We have a lot of fans there, and a lot of them love Ryan Tannehill.
Mm-hmm.
But there's other guys on the team. In fact, there's a lot of really potentially good fantasy players. Are they going to cancel each other out? We'll talk about it in a second, but I poured the shot. We have some...
Man, this is like freaking maple pancakes.
It's roasted pecan-flavored whiskey. Definitely some good stuff here. Shot glasses up, mazel tov.
Definitely triplified here. What is this, Rebel Stoke? Rebel Stoke?
Rebel Stoke. Shout out to Rebel Stoke.
Oh yeah, thanks for the bottle. We appreciate it.
Flavored whiskey. Hopefully you guys can join us with this shot. Salute. Oh. All right. Thank goodness football is back. We are recording this Wednesday night. So, of course, we got football tomorrow night. So
now, let's talk about the Dolphins defense, because this is the thing that I really like with the Dolphins.
All right. Dolphins defense. I think they're going to be great. They picked up
Ndamukong Suh. This is what I like about this team this year the most is this defense. I've already liked their secondary. I mean, Rashad Jones, he's one of my favorite safeties in the league. Brent Grimes looked great last year, so if he can continue that, I mean, their secondary was looking really good last year.
Rashad Jones is definitely one of the better safeties in the league.
Yeah, and if you play IDP, that's definitely a guy that you're going to want to own if he's for some reason, still a free agent. Scoop that guy up because he always gets a ton of tackles. But yeah, getting Ndamukong Suh, you got him, Cameron Wake, Olivier Vernon. That defense line is all of a sudden legit.
All day. And I don't think they're going to have a tough time against the Washington Redskins.
No, this is going to be another team going on their road and smashing the home team.
Shout out to Phased Killa. Thanks for joining us here as we live stream this installment of the Trippy Show as we cover week 1 of the fantasy football season. We'll be previewing every single week of the season for you guys. Looking at it, of course, picking the games, talking about all the key fantasy questions. A lot of these players, if you notice that we don't talk about a certain stud, in some cases it's because it's a no-doubter. You know, like, for example, we didn't really talk about Randall Cobb because, like, there's not too much to talk about.
Yeah, we didn't really talk about J.J. Watt because, come on, like, what do you need to know about J.J. Watt?
You're touching the IDP, man. See, we're fans of IDP. I feel like a lot of people don't play IDP right now. And people need to jump into it.
They need to. It's way more exciting. Like, why are you going to pick a team defense and special teams? Most of the time you lose points on it. You hardly ever get anything good out of it. And it's like, damn, I don't want a whole team. I want to pick my individual players. I was like, let's pick team offense then. And, you know, like, I want to use the defensive players, which, like, I guess a lot of people, they're not really, you know, huge football fans. They're not into knowing a lot of defensive players, so they choose not to do it. But definitely, you know, that's how you're going to get to know these players. You do IDP, and all of a sudden, you know, during the season, you know how many tackles, you know, the outside linebacker for the Dolphins has. And it's
Absolutely. So, last question when it comes to the Dolphins. You have Landry, who I liked a lot. Of course, Devontae Parker looks like he's going to play in this game, surprisingly.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Also Kenny Stills, also Jordan Cameron. Yep. How is this offense going to be able to give all these players production? We've talked about it with some other teams. I mean, which guy do you like? I hear a lot of
Jarvis Landry.
It's Parker.
Yeah, Jarvis Landry is the guy. He is definitely their go-to guy. He's the one that's going to be taking all the underneath routes, you know, catching the ball and getting yards after the catch. That is what Landry's going to do. I mean, Parker's the big guy. He's going to be the guy they're going to throw it up to. And then you have Kenny Stills, who's your burner, your guy that's going to hit the, you know, he's going to hit the seam routes, he's going to hit the go routes, and be that deep threat. But underneath there, you pretty much have Jarvis Landry and you have Jordan Cameron. Now, from what I've read and what I was worried was going to happen with Jordan Cameron is because Landry is that intermediate pass catcher that really uses up a lot of zone that Jordan Cameron would work in. So it's going to be interesting to see how they use Jordan Cameron. Maybe they use him as a threat over the middle deep and let Landry still work the underneath. But fantasy-wise, Jordan Landry is the guy to own there and start. I'm
worried, man. I liked Jarvis Landry a lot coming into the season, but now I'm looking at it. You have Parker healthy. Kenny Stills, man, that's a major deep threat. And, of course, Jordan Cameron's going to get some of the underneath patterns thrown to him. Tannehill's not a guy that's going to give a ton of production to multiple receivers. So we'll see, man.
Landry's already his guy, though. I mean, he kind of established that towards the end of last year. So
what about Parker? Everybody's throwing a lot of love towards Parker. This guy's got a lot of talent.
Oh, he's definitely got a lot of talent. But you already have that connection there between the two of them, and that's really what Tannehill is going to be looking to throw is kind of the intermediate passes. So that's kind of what their offense is built around. But having Parker to throw the ball up to is going to be a nice feature to use in the red zone. So, I mean, yeah, that could take away from Landry's touchdowns, but Landry's still going to probably get 10 to 13 targets a game.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm starting all the Dolphins that you normally would start, obviously. Kenny Stills, be worried about him. Jordan Cameron, I feel, is pretty decent start in this game against the hapless Redskins.
I'm still a little worried about him.
Jordan Cameron?
Yeah, he just still hasn't seemed right. He hasn't seemed like a Jordan Cameron of old. So maybe change of scenery, going down to Miami might kind of bring him back around to what he used to be.
Yeah. Talk about a guy we're not really talking about, Lamar Miller. I like him a lot.
I brought him up. Yeah, I like Lamar Miller too.
Solid running back too this year, man. Very solid running back too.
Yep.
I would rank him right next to Latavius Murray. Probably a little bit higher. Yeah. But he's a highly talented guy.
Well, he's got he's going to have the receiving yards to go along with the rushing yards, and that's kind of what I like. I mean, that's why I'm into the Matt Fortes, the Jamal Charles, obviously the Le'Veon Bells. These guys are going to catch the ball in open space and make plays happen. And because they might only have 60 yards rushing in the game, but they also had 60 yards receiving in the game, so it all equals out to the same.
Absolutely. So the Washington Redskins, man, RG3 is terrible. Here's another offense.
This is why I do not start anybody on this whole team.
Well, they have multiple fantasy-relevant players. You have Deshaun Jackson, Percy Harvin, Jordan Reed, Alfred Morris, even Matt Jones might be looked at. Yeah, I said Pierre Garçon. I mean, what the hell are you going to do with these? I avoided the Washington Redskins like the play.
And I hate that because I like Deshaun Jackson. And actually, Deshaun Jackson had a good year last year. And he might be the only guy to still have a good year this year because he's got the speed. He's going to hit the occasional deep pass for a touchdown. But yeah, I mean, I want to own Pierre Garçon because I still think he's a good receiver. But damn, the quarterback situation's all fucked up in Washington. And that just really kills it. And I think Alfred Morris is going to struggle because of that as well.
Yeah, what about Matt Jones? You like him at all? Seen a lot of him in Florida.
Yeah.
Of course,
and that's the thing. He's going to end up getting some carries as well. So I mean, it's not really looking good there in Washington for really any of the fantasy players.
So would you have drafted Deshaun Jackson or Percy Harvin?
I would have taken Deshaun Jackson for sure if he would have fell. If he would have fell low enough, I would have taken him. Obviously, my cousin took him. He had him last year. He took him again this year ahead of me. So I would have taken him, though, because Deshaun Jackson, he's going to make plays himself. I mean, throw a damn screen pass to him, he's going to make plays. So it doesn't matter who's throwing the ball. But he still needs that, if you're looking at consistency, you're not going to get it out of him. That's the bad side. You're going to either have a great game for him or a shitty game for him.
Last question real quick. You were a big fan of RG3 when he first came out. Are you giving up on him?
I think he needs to give up the game just for himself. I mean, it's just, I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's not able to put on the weight and he's just that light. That's why he gets tossed around like a rag doll. But every time this guy gets hit, it just looks way nastier than anybody else in the league who gets hit. Any other quarter. I mean, Tom Brady looks like the most unathletic guy on the football field. Yet when he gets hit, it's like, it doesn't seem like that bad every time Tom Brady gets hit. Every time RG3 gets hit, man, it looks nasty.
It's like bone crushing.
It's bad. He's down. He's always down for a while. So I don't know if it's just bad luck or what, but had another concussion scare. I mean, this guy he's never going to have the full confidence that he had when he was in college, when he was running the football, throwing it, that we saw when he came in his rookie season. And because this guy was never getting hurt in college, come into the NFL, he's tearing it up because he can run the ball. He's not scared of anything. He's throwing passes. He's not second guessing himself, and he's destroying it. Gets his knee fucked up. Ever since then, he looks like a guy that's just been second guessing himself. Doesn't know what the fuck to do on the field. Doesn't know if he should slide. Doesn't know if he should curl up in a ball. Should he lunge out to get the first down? He can't play the game like that, and you can see it. All of his throws are late. He makes his reads late, and that's what's causing all his troubles. So I mean. Yeah, unfortunately,
you're giving up on him.
Fortunately for RG3, it could be the end for RG3. It's sad to see, man, because he was a really electric player when he was coming out of college, and that first year in the NFL, maybe some of the best highlights I've seen from a quarterback in the NFL.
So when it comes to this game, this is a very hard game to pick. Of course, I am going to predict that the Washington Redskins will win this one. Now, that doesn't mean the Miami Dolphins suck. That doesn't mean that they're a worse team than the Redskins. I just feel like a lot of good teams, you come in with some hype. You're like, damn, we're loaded. We got Ndamukong Suh, Tannehill's ready. We're ready to go here. You come into that road game that kind of, it stumps you right away. Sometimes it's even home game. In week 1, I think that's going to happen to the Dolphins, and maybe that'll be a good thing. Maybe it'll wake them up. We'll see how that goes, but I'm going to pick the Redskins, even though I don't like them this year at all. I think they're going to fall on their face. I think they'll somehow pull off a win thanks to who they starting, Kirk Cousins. That's a capable quarterback considering their offensive weapons. Not in this game. But I think they'll be able to get something going, maybe some sort of turnover.
You could go with McCoy, you can go with Cousins. Neither one of them to me can successfully lead a team to win games. So the Dolphins might come out flat. They probably will. They're on the road. Most of these teams on the road are going to probably come out flat. But I think the Dolphins this year, maybe not last year, but this year, I think they're good enough to where that defense is going to keep Redskins at bay. And the Dolphins' offense might come out weak, but come second half, come fourth quarter, I think they're going to put enough to put them over and beat the Redskins.
Absolutely, man. That's definitely going to be a great game to watch. I knew you'd pick the Dolphins. I'm picking the upset. There's going to be some games where, you know how you don't really pick every game based on who you think's better. Sometimes you got to be like, because that's not how it goes.
Situations. That's exactly what it is.
This is my first game of the season where I'm like, the Dolphins are clearly better. Yeah. I think the Redskins are going to do something to get a victory. Some of our favorite fans in the NFL are of the Washington Redskins. You have the Hogs, and we truly feel bad for you. We're going to take another shot.
So you think what you're saying is the fix is in. Vegas is going to fix it because, to me, this game here is a trap bet. If I'm a bettor, Absolutely. I see this game. The Dolphins are going to be heavy favorites in this game, big time. So that's a trap bet. So
one of the biggest stadiums in the NFL. It'll be loud. The fans aren't giving up yet. I tell you, I bet you they're all getting around Kirk Cousins.
No, it's week 1. They're good. Week 1, they're good. Week 2, week 3,
decent players.
But week
on offense.
1, every home stadium should be completely sold out with optimistic fans. Week 1, I don't care even if you're the Raiders. I'm gonna be like, yeah, Murray, baby, he's gonna tear it up.
I like the Raiders this year. They got Amari Cooper. That's reason enough to be fans.
Exactly. So everyone's optimistic going into the season.
Michael Rivera, look at his stats last year. People forget about him. We'll get to the Raiders. We'll get to the Raiders. But as far as this game's concerned, you're picking the Dolphins. I'm picking the Redskins.
But you may have a point there. Vegas might be in on it.
Take the shot here. Salute. And shout out to the Redskin fans. Good luck. Oh, man. Roasted pecan. Wow.
It's good.
So moving on. The Panthers. One of my NFC favorites before Benjamin went down.
Can we do like there's with the dates and you have AD, BC. Can we do like a KB before KB?
Yeah, exactly.
Before KB, everything that we say because no Benjamin.
That's too bad, man. They made him a complete team. You have Kuechly, you have Thomas Davis. They lose Greg Hardy, but Charles Johnson's pretty good over there. Yeah, so they're pretty loaded. They needed that big play wide receiver. They lost him. They're going to lean on Greg Olsen now. Of course, we'll see what the rookie Funches can do. I think it'll take a while, maybe even half a season before he gets warmed up.
Be rough.
The good thing for them is they have an easy matchup defensively. I think it might be a shootout. This is going to be one of those possible. Yeah, I think the Jaguars might be able to score against the Panthers' defensive backs.
Oh, I think they will, but I'm seeing this kind of a lower scoring game because I think the Panthers, like you said, going on the road, the Panthers are going to come in. They're going to be really flat. They're not going to have really any weapons to go to. They're really going to try to establish the run game with Jonathan Stewart. That's really the key to this team. So if Jonathan Stewart can come out and have some success early, then I think the Panthers' offense will open up. But if he starts getting shut down right away, then you could start seeing them struggling, kind of get desperate. Cam Newton's going to start trying to force things, and that's going to play in the Jaguars. The Jaguars' secondary is pretty decent. Jonathan Crippian, Cyprian as a safety, he's one of my favorites to watch.
He fell off last year, man. We'll see if he can bounce back.
Yeah, I think he will, and I think this whole Jaguars team actually going to bounce back. They've got a lot of pieces that they've brought together. I think this is the better Jaguars team.
You like their defense?
Their defense still needs work, for sure. Their defense still needs work. But as far as the offensive side, being able to put up points, they're really bringing stuff around Blake Bortles. I think Blake Bortles will be better this year, make a lot less mistakes. We kind of see that with quarterbacks. Rookie seasons aren't easy at all. Even the second season is not easy, but I think you're going to see some improvement there.
Are you a fan? I kind of want to skip over the Panthers first. In fact, the Panthers start all your Panther starters. Jonathan Stewart, start
got one,
yeah,
two.
Greg Olsen, start him.
Yeah, two.
Don't start any of the receivers.
No, I probably don't even start Cam Newton.
I think Corey Brown, he might be a sleeper stash, possibly. I mean, they're looking at him as the number one.
Yeah.
Why not stash him? At least see how it goes. It's a good quarterback. It can at least feed the number one wide receiver along with Greg Olsen. But getting to the Jaguars, I feel like their wide receiver bunch is very overrated. I don't know why everybody loves Allen Robinson so much. I do like the Jaguars to be okay.
Well, Allen Robinson is just a beast, man. He's a big dude. He's a physical, a specimen. I mean, he's one of those guys that is hard to cover because he is so strong. He's so
I don't
big.
know if he's a number one, man. I like Marquise Lee and Allen Hurns. I think they're going to get plenty of production because, yeah, Allen Robinson is the number one, but is he going to be able to do good against the Vontae Davises of the world? Some of the other guys that he'll be facing.
Well, I mean, obviously he's still young, so obviously he's going to fail, going against Vontae Davis as most receivers will. But just because of his physicality, I think it does give him advantage to be that number one possession guy. I mean, that's kind of what you want your number one guy to be. You kind of like your Terrell Owens, those kind of receivers that are big. They're the guys that you can catch the ball on a 5-yard slant and make it into a 15-yard play because they can get past these little secondary guys trying to bring them down. I do like Allen Hurns. And Blake Bortles, I think he is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league. A lot of people talk good about Blake Bortles last year. He came out, kind of struggled, but put up good numbers. And this year, seems like everyone's forgetting about Blake Bortles. This guy can throw the ball, and he made his name at a small college, UCF.
One of the biggest colleges in the U.S. though.
As far as students, yes, but not football. Not as far as football programs. Pretty small school as far as football programs concerned.
Very small.
But had the huge win over Louisville. I remember that season. That was crazy win for UCF there. But coming out of small school, made a name for himself, and really, I think he is going to do much better this year. He's even a guy that you might want to pick up stash for bye weeks. If you are like in a 12-man league and you're looking for quarterbacks, he's a guy that I guarantee is still a free agent in most leagues everywhere. Hold on to him, see what happens. I mean, because he's got some weapons. TJ Yeldon is a really good running back.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
I like him and Robinson because you're going to have Robinson, who's going to be the guy that kind of be the speed guy. They can throw screen passes to, have him make plays. So I think the offense has really become a lot more rounded and is going to be a lot better this year.
Especially when they get Julius Thomas back. That's for sure.
That's going to be huge when they get him back.
And I do like them all in this matchup. A lot of people would be scared of the Panthers. I'm not really too scared of them.
Now, I mean, the Jaguars, I'm saying a lot of good things about them, but still, at the end of the day, all-around football team, they're still not that good. They're still maybe a season away from being a contending team. I still got to go with the Panthers here.
All right, picking the Panthers, as am I. Let's move on. The Seattle Seahawks without Cam Chancellor, and they're going to be playing the St. Louis Rams on the road.
How can you as a player just all right, I'm gonna sit out this game because we don't have a contract worked out yet?
Well, he does have a contract worked out, right?
Well, not to what he wants,
but not the one he wants.
And I'm sure he probably deserves every penny of what he wants because he is one of the best safeties in the league. But it's damn, dude, you're hurting your team now. Your teammates is what you're hurting. It's play the game, but don't sign yet. You know what I'm saying?
He's already a millionaire.
Yeah, it gets a little ridiculous. I mean, I know these guys, they feel they're worth way more than they're getting paid, but at the end of the day, man, you're making millions of dollars. We'll never understand it. I mean, we're not in their shoes. We'll never understand it, but I've just never really seen it like that where a player can just, sit out and just be cool and all right, I'm going to sit out then, So
it is pretty selfish. I mean, that's the bottom line. I know these guys view it as a business. Cam Chancellor already has a Super Bowl championship, so it's not like he's motivated. He's not coming back to say, I got to win the Super Bowl. All these guys, not only are they champions, but they should be back-to-back champions.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot to really have to say about the Seahawks. Obviously, the addition of Jimmy Graham, that everybody knows about at this point, he's obviously going to be really good. But one question I have for you, the receiving core. Didn't do anything to improve the receiving core. What's going to happen there? Just who cares? We're just going to throw these receivers out there just to run around, have the secondary run around and chase them.
Well, I think you misspoke there because they did do a pretty big thing to upgrade the receiving core with Jimmy Graham. I mean, Jimmy Graham keep in mind.
I'm talking about. I mean, he's a tight end though. I'm saying that.
But
I'm saying
remember
actual wide receiving core.
When he went for the new agent, or when he went for the new contract,
he wanted to be listed as a wide receiver.
To be listed as a wide receiver, and I think there's some truth there.
But he's still he's not going to be lined up in a slot in Seattle. I can tell you that much right now. He's going to be in the tight end spot and running routes from the tight end spot. So I mean, he might want to be listed as a wide receiver, but he's at the end of the day, he's a tight end. The dude can block too. I mean, he's a really good blocker. You wouldn't think he'd be because he's such a good receiver, but the dude can block too. So guarantee you Seattle's going to be using him as a strictly as a tight end, but still. He's a tight end that's going to be running down the field with linebackers covering him. That's a mismatch all day fucking long.
And because of that, it's going to loosen up their number one wide receiver for a 1,000-yard, 6-touchdown season. And that's very useful.
Interesting.
Who's their number one wide receiver? Not Doug Baldwin. I think it's going to be Tyler Lockett. I think super sleeper Tyler Lockett.
You think 1,000 yards? He was the guy I wanted to bring up. He's going to be. I just don't know when he's going to get that opportunity to be.
Right now, right away.
Yeah, I mean,
right here against the St. Louis Rams. Doug Baldwin's fine.
He will probably have a kick return in this game. This guy is probably one of the best kick returners I've seen. I mean, it's just he makes it look too easy, and that's the guys you look at is like when they're running and it looks like it's not even anything. Like it's so easy. It's just,
I think he could be a reverse Devin Hester. You know how Devin Hester had that defensive back return man appeal? I think Tyler Lockett's going to be the first return man wide receiver appeal, or at least the biggest one in a while.
Oh, for sure. I mean, and that's what he's going to do. Now, the guy is a hell of an athlete. We'll see how they use him. I am still not seeing, he's a guy you want to pick up and stash away for a while. If you got the room, hang on to him because when it does happen, everyone's going to try to pick him up. I just don't know if it's going to happen right off the bat.
So are you picking the Seahawks in this one? We'll get to the Rams offense here in a second, but I can't imagine you're picking the Rams.
Yeah. Not picking the Rams.
So do you like any of their players? I mean, going against the Seahawks, how could you possibly start any of them?
Well, the only guy that I would have started would have been Trey Mason if he was healthy, but that's not happening. So definitely not starting Benny Cunningham, I'll tell you that much. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe,
not against this team.
Maybe if you're in a 14-person league and for some reason you didn't select a tight end in the draft, maybe pick up Jared Cook. I think he still has some appeal because he is such a big tight end. Maybe Nick Foles, that might be his early guy to go to, but because he really doesn't have great wide receivers to throw to, but you do have a big-ass tight end who can catch the ball. So maybe he has a little of appeal there, but not much. I mean, that's desperate at this point.
Yeah, it's too bad there's not more to talk about with the Rams.
Yeah,
but,
Austin's Tavon Austin's not even worth.
Brian Quick, maybe stash him. I know people drafted him.
He's had some success last year, so I mean, but it was like
minimal success.
It was a game and then nothing, and one game, good game. Crap. Oh, good game, and it's like you don't want that on your team. You don't want to ride that roller coaster.
So the Saints, not liking them too much this year, and the one thing you think they would have to lean on is their running game with Mark Ingram, perhaps C.J. Spiller, who's not going to play in this game. They're going against the Arizona Cardinals. I think they're going to have a great run defense, and that puts them in a bind. I like the Cardinals a lot in this game.
I do too. I mean. Yeah, we'll see Brandon Cooks right now is listed as number one. I still don't see how that guy can be a number one receiver.
He's tiny.
To me, he's your perfect slot receiver. That's what you want. He's that guy that can destroy in the slot and burn people over the top. But to be your number one, it's not if it's going to work. We have heard Coleman is going to probably be starting over Colston. So that's kind of weird there. It looks like Colston.
Really?
Yeah, Colston might. Who knows? Maybe Colston is just not what he used to be. I mean, we've kind of seen a decline.
He sucked for a while.
He has sucked for a while, but I mean, even last year he had some games where it was like, damn, there's Marcus Colston, he's back. And but really he is starting to slowly fade out. So really you got to look at the Saints. Mark Ingram is definitely a guy I'm starting because they have to be able to run the ball. And he's going to be the guy to do it. And that's the only way the Saints offense is going to be successful against the Cardinals. They got to establish a run game because I just don't think that their receiving core that they have now is going to be able to put enough pressure on the Cardinals secondary and give enough space for Drew Brees to complete enough passes to beat them. So it's really tough to say what the Saints are going to be able to do.
When it comes to Mark Ingram in this particular game, I do like Ingram for the most part this year. I think he's going to be a touchdown magnet. I could see him getting like 999-yard rushing and 12 or 13 touchdowns, like something stupid.
Yeah.
But it's so that in that case, it's hard to really predict him. You have to start him no matter what because I feel like he's going to have a bad rushing yardage game against the Cardinals, but he might have a touchdown, maybe 2, maybe even 3, depending on how close they can get to the end zone here. I don't like Drew Brees in this game. I think that's going to be one of those games where people who drafted him will be scared because he's going to have pretty lackluster matchup here and performance against the Cardinals. What do you think about Brandon Cooks in this one? Another guy I'm pretty scared to start.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what the Cardinals do with him, if they're going to put Peterson on him the whole time. I'm not really sure, but I mean, I know that
Peterson's going to be a perfect size against Cooks.
And the thing is, and another thing we got to mention with the Saints is that even though Cooks is the number one, the Saints like to move the receivers around a lot. I mean, even when Marcus Colson, when he was the number one, they lined him up in the slot a lot. So you could still see Brandon Cooks being lined up in the slot to try to get some separation
there.
They
have to.
But I mean, you're gonna have Coleman getting covered by Peterson, and that's gonna be a fail. So it's definitely gonna be tough for the Saints here in this one. They're gonna have to hope that their defense can somewhat pull something off, but no Jarius Byrd, so I mean, really that takes a hit right there in their secondary.
So who is your number one? Oh, actually, real quick, do you like any of the Saints tight ends? Watson or Josh Hill?
I don't. Watson is old man. Old man.
Very old man.
Old man.
Seems like he's been around forever.
I know. He's been around. He has been around forever. Josh Hill, I mean, the guy can play, but he's not like a guy that's going to go, oh, no, I want to get him on my fantasy team. I think he's going to have some touchdowns. He's going to have some yards, but nothing that you're going to be able to start on a consistent basis.
I could see him getting like 7 touchdowns.
But on the season,
no
it's going to be sporadic, and that's kind of how the Saints receivers were already, even when they had Jimmy Graham, even when Marcus Colson was at his best. It was still sporadic at times because they like to move the ball around so much.
Now they're going to have Spiller eventually.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a receiving core that I never liked fantasy wise to begin with. I mean, they'd have their good games, but it's just the inconsistency, man. That really pisses me off. Like when it's like, man, my receiver looked so good last week, and this week he gets no targets. Like, what the fuck?
So as far as the Cardinals, who do you think is going to be the number one wide receiver at the end of the year for them?
For the Cardinals? Oh, Downtown Brown, man.
Really? John Brown over Fitzgerald over Michael Floyd.
John Brown he's a lot like Brandon Cooks, man, and really at this point probably better than Brandon Cooks, kind of similar size, but John Brown, man, that guy makes some plays. No one can really cover him one-on-one, so as long as Carson Palmer, and that's the key person we got to talk about here, as long as Carson Palmer can stay healthy, that's the only way this Cardinals team is going to win games. Because if he goes down again, it's going to be rough for this offense. And it's going to be tough to be able to trust some of these receivers that they do have, who are both skilled. I mean, Fitzgerald, I still like Larry Fitzgerald when Carson Palmer's in. I really like John Brown when Carson Palmer's in. Carson Palmer's not in. I'm not touching Fitzgerald. May hold on to John Brown and hope something good happens there, but
Michael Floyd.
I fell off the Michael Floyd train like 2 years ago. Like I don't see it from him. I don't know what's happened to him, but as far as pecking order is concerned, he'd be third on my list there with the Cardinals.
Wow, and so you think Brown is going to take over the number one spot? That's definitely interesting.
I do. I mean, the coaching staff, raves about him. We've seen it already last year. We've seen some of the plays the guy can make. He's really kind of a rare talent because how small he is. I mean, it's like he's small, but the guy is playing almost like Steve Smith, I guess you could say. He's small, but he doesn't get pushed around. He goes up and gets the ball somehow over cornerbacks. It's like, how is this guy pulling these plays off at being so short?
Yeah, definitely got to give a special shout out to Jermaine Gresham as well, which is really a better real life pickup, or fantasy. I don't think we're going to start him anytime soon, but you like that they gave another receiving threat to Carson Palmer, so maybe that improves him. Not too many people starting Carson Palmer, but I think Jermaine Gresham being healthy already, we didn't expect him to be in there week 1. Maybe that gives him a chance to be a decent fantasy starter.
Now, what do you think about the running back crew here? You got Andre Ellington and eventually Chris Johnson once he gets established into the offense.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. I'm worried about it. I never really liked Ellington from a running back standpoint.
He's too much of an injury risk at this point, I feel. I gave him a chance last year because I already kind of knew that. I was like, you know what, I'm going to pick him up. It was kind of later. I'm going to pick him up, I think, because they like to use him in the passing game, which is something I like about him, and he's good at it. And he's a hell of a running back, but, man, to be able to trust him to be able to last the whole season. He gets little, any little thing that he gets, he always seems to have like Achilles problems, ankle problems, foot problems. It's like, if you're a running back and you keep having these problems, it's not good, and it's not good for fantasy.
He's too small to be a workhorse, a three-back guy.
He's a great number 2 running back for a team to catch the screen passes and do that stuff. But yeah,
it's like a Woodhead.
I mean, to have this guy run up the middle almost every other play, it's not going to work.
Think about it. Would you have Woodhead as a 3-down back? Like, that'd be stupid.
Yeah, would you treat him like a Marshawn Lynch?
Yeah, you're going to run him down. That's what they're going to do with Andre Ellington.
And that's what happened. That's what we saw it last year. That's exactly what happened.
Exactly. Would you treat him like beast mode, Andre Ellington? That's funny. So I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals at home. I don't think the Saints are going to do too good in this one, and people are going to get scared.
I'm going Cardinals at home.
The Lions traveling to San Diego, one of the better matchups of the opening kickoff weekend.
Yep.
Detroit Lions, man, Calvin Johnson. This is a weird player. He's been a first-rounder for a lot of his career, and now he's one of these sleeper players in, the second and third round.
I know. It's pretty crazy there. Yeah, I think he went in the second round in our league.
Which is high.
Probably second round for most. I mean,
I wouldn't have done that.
I think I would have. I mean, I don't see why not. I mean, this guy, if he's healthy, he's still one of the best receivers in the game. He's Megatron. He's a guy that not really many people can cover. I don't think he's old that, his age is not at that point where it's really going to affect him. Mm-hmm. If he's completely healthy, I have no, I lose no confidence in him because of what happened last year to him. So I think he's just as good. Having Golden Tate around and the season Golden Tate had last year, I think is still going to help out Calvin Johnson because now your defenses are like, whoa, we got a plan for this guy too. We can't just be focusing on Calvin Johnson the whole time.
I hear you there. So let's touch on the running backs. Of course, you do have Golden Tate. The interesting thing about Golden Tate is even if they don't give him a lot of passes because they're giving a lot of passes to, of course, Calvin Johnson there, Golden Tate, he's liable to just blaze one off at any moment. Yeah, he can get 3 or 4 catches and get plenty of yards.
I like Golden Tate a lot. I think the Seattle Seahawks really messed up when they let him go. He's a guy that really was underutilized in Seattle, and I think Detroit realized that. They're like, look, this guy can play, and they took full advantage of him last year. So continue to see much of the same. He's definitely, if I had him as a wide receiver 3, I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, I hear you there. What are you thinking about with the running backs?
Running backs is an interesting situation. It's all going to depend on how they're gonna use them. I mean, I have no faith in Joique Bell at all. I've for the past couple seasons it's been that way.
I think he's average.
There's times when he looks good, but for the most part, it seems they always want to bring some other running back in to take his spot because he's not producing. I do like Abdullah. I think he's going to be their starter. He's also doing kick returns and punt returns right now. So fantasy people, if for some reason he snuck by in your draft and he's still available, definitely pick him up because I think he will be taking over as a starter. And I know you like, was it Fenner, the rookie that they have?
Zach Zenner?
Or Zenner.
He's decent. He was undrafted, so I don't see him as a starting back anytime soon. That would happen. Of course, Abdullah being the rookie, you question rookie running backs because can they hold up for a whole season? Mm-hmm. And you already have an injury-prone running back in Joique Bell. All of a sudden, if you have the rookie getting injured, Joique Bell inevitably getting injured, Zach Zenner makes an extremely appealing start in that offense.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think Abdullah is really skilled, and he fits the Lions mold. He's going to be able to catch balls out of the backfield, and that's really what they need because that's what we're going to see from the Lions. They're going to line up in shotgun. They're going to have 3 or 4 wide receivers every time, and that's what the Lions are going to do. You need that running back there that's going to be able to catch the ball in the backfield and make plays, and that's what he is.
I know a lot of people were very optimistic about Eric Ebron. I'm not optimistic at all.
Nah, I'm still not. Hasn't proven anything to me yet. So I mean, if he starts having some success early in the season here, maybe pick him up and see what happens there. But yeah, judging off last year, I can't really put much faith in everyone.
The San Diego Chargers, man, what do you think about their wide receiver situation? They don't have Antonio Gates.
Yep.
Ladarius Green, their backup tight end, just got concussed. We'll see what happens with him. And now all of a sudden, you don't have Eddie Royal as well. No. I feel like their wide receivers are depleted here.
It's terrible.
Stevie Johnson, they're going to lean on him.
They're going to have to. And Keenan Allen, I mean, this guy started off his career amazing and then just, absolutely just taking a nosedive. I don't know if Keenan Allen's ever going to return back to that form that he was, that we saw in his rookie season. But, yeah, I mean, this receiving core has really got to step up and do something because this team's going to be dependent on it. You got a rookie running back who's going to be starting for you. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to be able to throw the ball too.
Yeah, I'm calling San Diego my disappointing team this season. I'm predicting that because I don't like their receiving core. Like I said, no Antonio Gates. Keenan Allen proved that he's not a legit wide receiver.
He's definitely not, not no one at all.
And you lose Eddie Royal. You bring in Stevie Johnson. they're saying they love him, but that's because they don't have anybody else.
Yeah, he hasn't been relevant for years. So
I feel like they're going to fall off this year. Of course, their defense. Yeah, they do have Brandon Flowers, and they put him next to Verrett, so they have those decent cornerbacks.
And Eric Weddle.
Yeah. So maybe the defensive backs are above average, but that's about it. We'll see if Corey Legit can maybe take a step up. He's not going to get a ton of sacks.
Nah, I mean, he's just going to be there to try to, to try to stuff the middle. That's basically what he does. So.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with them, but I'm not too optimistic about the San Diego Chargers. I think they fall at home to the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, and we'll see if the Lions defense can step up this year because really they've been a failed past couple seasons. Secondary's been atrocious, so we'll see if they can step up. I love DeAndre Levy, IDP. I mean, he's a tackle machine, but not going to start this week.
No, DeAndre Levy's not going to play this week. So those of you who are playing IDP, definitely look to replace him. I know he's one of the top linebackers.
Yeah, but hang on to him. Don't drop him.
One guy I didn't mention, of course, with my hate towards San Diego, that does cover Melvin Gordon as well. I think he'll be vultured by Danny Woodhead, of all people, which is funny on the one.
And
Brandon you think
Oliver
of a big guy.
Well.
Yeah, and then you have Brandon Oliver. I'm not a big fan of Melvin Gordon at all. I'm not a fan of rookie running backs in general. They just haven't held up recently. Now, when it comes to guys like Todd Gurley, we mentioned Abdullah, where maybe they get a few games to get prime. TJ Yeldon.
Yeah, I mean,
TJ Yeldon I do like. I'll admit that.
I still like Melvin Gordon. I don't know if the situation right now with Chargers, having him be the main guy starting, taking all the carries is exactly a good thing for him. But I think skill-wise, I think he's right up there with Gurley. I mean, the stuff we saw him pull off last year was about just as impressive. So, I mean... But yeah, you're right. Rookie running backs, it's tough to trust.
They usually wear down because the college season is much shorter.
You get those guys like Doug Martin that comes in the rookie season and absolutely destroys it. So it can happen. So.
Yeah, and then falls off.
And then falls off the next season. Yeah, exactly.
How do you predict that shit?
Nope.
So the Tennessee Titans are traveling to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is a battle. You have Marcus Mariota against Jameis Winston. Mariota. Yeah. This is going to be an interesting case where. Fantasy-wise, he's going against a subpar defense, or so people think. I think they're going to be above average, surprisingly. And, no weapons to give him. Bishop Sankey, possibly Kendall Wright. I don't think, Dario Becker Green or Beckham Green, however you say his name. Three last name
Green or something like that.
Oh, no, Beckham Green. Anyways, I don't think he's going to step up quite yet.
Nah, I don't either. And it's hard to say. I mean, obviously Wright is going to be his main target to throw the ball to. But it's hard to say what's going to happen in this game at all from both these teams. You got both of the top drafted quarterbacks going against each other, rookie quarterbacks starting in their very first NFL game. The only thing Jameis Winston has over him is that he's at his home field, so... Mariota going on the road. It could be ugly. Obviously,
the Bucs didn't win a single game at home last year.
Yeah, that's true, but at least he won't get booed in week 1, so it might be all right.
I hope. No, that'll be bad if he does. So, are you going to start anybody from the Titans?
No, I really wouldn't.
Delaney Walker?
No, they've got to prove it to me. With a rookie quarterback, I can't really start anybody with a rookie quarterback until I can see what they're gonna be all about.
Bishop Sankey. No David Cobb to worry about.
I'm not trusting Bishop Sankey either. He hasn't really proven anything to me. So I still like Kendall Wright. I think he is a guy that is a good enough receiver to make plays. And from what I've heard, Mariota and him have a pretty good connection so far. So he's a guy that I would keep on my team and see how he does here in week 1.
All right. I'm trying to think if there's anybody I would start. Definitely not from the Tennessee Titans. The Tampa Bay Bucs, this is scary news about Mike Evans. I mean, he might not play in week 1. This is one of our legit wide receiver 1 kind of guys. We can't have him missing games.
Yeah, he was held out of practice again today, so that's never a good sign. He will have to probably practice tomorrow. Well, that's probably when we're going to know exactly if he's going to be playing on Thursday. But, yeah, it definitely is going to hurt Winston because that's going to be a target that he's going to need. It's a guy that's going to be able to go up and get the ball. I do like Lewis Murphy still, though. Even if he does go down, you're going to have Vincent Jackson and Lewis Murphy. So I think he'll still be all right. But you never want to have your rookie quarterback starting first week and not having probably one of his biggest receiving threats a sideline. So
I'm calling Austin Seferian-Jenkins as a top 12 tight end this year. I think he's the guy who's going to get a touchdown, maybe even 2 in this game against Titans D.
Yeah, Dirk Cutter's already come out and said how much he likes him and how much he's going to utilize him. He said he was like a young Tony Gonzalez, but he's got to prove that to me. So I haven't seen that yet. So
yeah, and that's a good point though. The fact that You do have Dirk Cutter, the offensive coordinator, who's very used to using Tony Gonzalez.
Yeah.
ASJ's got the size to definitely replicate
Exactly,
stuff
and
like that.
if he's talking good about him, then hey, that just kind of leads you to believe that he's going to try to have his offense worked around him. And I think it's a reason why we didn't see much of ASJ during the preseason. It almost seemed like they weren't utilizing him for a reason, save him for the first game of the season.
I think that's the case, especially because Jameis Winston loves to go to that position.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a lot of his big passes in college were to his tight end. So
hopefully Mike Evans can come back in this game. This is another interesting game to predict. One other guy, Doug Martin.
yeah, I was gonna say, what do you think? What's your?
Yeah, you got to start him in this game if you drafted him. I think he's easily a running back 3, and he'll probably end up being a running back 2. He's leaner this year, and people haven't been talking about that.
He looks good. He looks fast. He's making good, quick cuts as long as he can stay healthy. I mean, this guy, his rookie season was great. Had the injury in his sophomore season. It's taken him a little while to bounce back, but I think now he looks really good. And I think we're going to see much of what we saw in the first season of him.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Now, when it comes to picking this game, I think the Tennessee Titans are going to win. I have no rhyme or reason. Probably a pick 6 here, maybe even 2 by Jameis Winston. Maybe Mariota doesn't really do too much, but doesn't have the key turnovers.
Yeah.
It's tough to pick this one. I'm going with Tennessee.
Yeah, it is tough, but I got to go with the Bucs just because they're at home. Tennessee going on the road, rookie quarterback. This could be the opportunity where the crowd could come into play, where he's calling out wrong signals and stuff, and everything is going haywire for him. So I see that kind of happen in this game. Even though Mariota has looked pretty good during preseason, I think the Bucs are going to come out with a victory here in Week 1.
The Bengals at the Raiders. These seem to be 2 teams you're not very high on.
No, I'm not at all. I do like Jeremy Hill though. I mean, he's probably him and AJ Green are your 2 guys to start for the Bengals, obviously.
Oh, you definitely have to start Jeremy Hill.
I don't trust anybody else in that offense. Dalton is a guy I do not like at all, and their defense it really does not look good right now. Same thing we say with the Raiders. I mean, Amari Cooper is probably a guy that I would start right now. Like I said, it's tough to see what a rookie's going to do in his first game, but everything we've heard about Cooper so far leads me to believe he's going to have a pretty decent game.
Oh, yeah, man. I'm big on Amari Cooper, and I'm really big on all of the offensive players in this game that you normally would start. Like you mentioned, A.J. Green, definitely have to start Jeremy Hill. Yeah. And Oakland Raiders, I definitely start Amari Cooper as well as their starting running back with Latavius Murray. There's nothing really to worry about as far as those guys are concerned. Now, you're not going to start the quarterbacks. You're not going to start, maybe you start Michael Rivera in a deep league.
Yeah.
But other than that, you're just going to start the number 1 wide receiver, number 1 running back.
Yeah, it's tough.
Don't start Mohamed Sanu.
I would take Carr over Dalton, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for sure.
I think Carr's definitely an underrated quarterback at this point.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, I think he's going to definitely be able to produce enough to make the Raiders' offense be successful. And that's why I'm picking the Raiders to win their first game at home.
Really? I know you haven't been on the Bengals. I think Jeremy Hill's going to tear it up in this game, maybe get 200 yards rushing, and I like the Bengals. So you pick the Raiders. Let's move on. The Baltimore Ravens versus the Denver Broncos. Now, the Denver Broncos, I actually predicted to be the number 1 team this year. I like them quite a bit over the Seattle Seahawks, over the New England Patriots. Of course, I really talked about them a lot when Tom Brady looked to be out for 4 games. Not that that's going to hurt him from a Super Bowl run. But I like the Denver Broncos. They're my Super Bowl pick this year. Demaryius Thomas, you have to start him. The Ravens, they have some decent defensive weapons to try to keep these guys intact, but Demaryius Thomas will not be stopped. I feel like people are giving Peyton Manning a break. I've heard a lot of talk about Peyton Manning, and they're saying that he's still the legit number 1 that he was last year and the year before. People are completely forgetting that he did fall off in big portions, and I really feel they're going to lean on their running game. I think C.J. Anderson's going to be one of the best running backs this year.
Yeah.
Look for Emmanuel Sanders to fall off. Owen Daniels going to be a touchdown catcher, so he's going to be better than a lot of these lesser tier tight ends just for that touchdown alone. And not too much to say about the Denver Broncos. Once again, Demaryius Thomas will be a beast. I think Sanders falls off from last year.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the best games of the week. This is going to be a really good battle. I really like the Ravens defense a lot this year. I think they're definitely much more improved, and I do still like the Broncos defense. So, you have 2 offenses that we know are going to be able to put up points and 2 defenses that are pretty solid. it's definitely going to be a good game.
What do you think about Emmanuel Sanders this year? Is he going to be as good as he was last year?
He's not going to get the targets that he had last year, but I could see him putting up comparable yards to last year. Just because I think he's going to have some bigger plays. He's not going to have, he's not going to have as many catches underneath, racking up, 15 yards here, 10 yards here. I think he's really going to be used more along, throwing the ball downfield off play action. We know that they're going to be, I can't even say run-heavy team. I mean, they're run-focused. That's their idea is to start off the game, get the running game established. But, come on, we know that come second half, the Broncos are losing the game. Peyton Manning's taking over, and he's going to be throwing the ball. So there's nothing.
I'm not sure if his arm strength is what it was. I think that's why they'll lean on the running game. Lucky for them, because their defense is pretty decent, they're not going to be behind too often.
Yeah, I can't really think that his arm strength's going to be any different than it was last year.
Remember the Bengals game last year where, it came down to Peyton Manning trying to catch them back into the game, and he threw 2 pick sixes, or at least 1 pick six to Dre Kirkpatrick and another pick to him. Yeah,
well, I mean, the thing with Peyton Manning is if he has time, he's going to be able to hit any throw on the field. When he doesn't have time, that's when that stuff happens, and that's what that's the thing here is the Ravens are going to be coming at him full speed. So, if they can't protect him, then it's going to be a rough game and a rough season for Peyton Manning. But
I think Peyton Manning's going to be a bottom of the top 10 quarterback this year.
Really,
I really do.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I
like them for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they're going to run the ball, but trust me, they're going to be throwing the ball plenty enough to where he's going to be putting up stats, as well as both the receivers are going to have good stats.
Switching over to the Baltimore Ravens, I do not like Justin Forsett at all in this game. I do like Steve Smith, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, Steve Smith's the guy to like. This is his last season, so, I mean, you got to imagine he's going to come out wanting the ball. They'll probably throw to him quite a bit in the beginning of the game. And let's be honest, Steve Smith, for the first half of the season, for most seasons, is a good player. Mm-hmm. Kind of falls off in the second half of the season because he's getting older. But I think Forsett is still usable here. I think he's still going to have chances to score touchdowns. He's probably not, his yards per average is not going to be probably too well against this Broncos defense. But he's a guy that I still think, from what he did last year, is still a guy that people are talking about. I mean, it hasn't been that long from last year. We didn't see him falling off at the end of the year last year. He was still running the ball just fine last year. So, this guy is older, but he really hasn't been a starting running back in the league for long. So, maybe this is a swan song, but I think he's got another good year in him. And I think he's still somebody that you can start maybe as an RB3, a flex play, something like that, and get some production out of him.
Yeah, who are you picking in this one?
Yeah, this is a tough one, man. This is definitely the hardest one. I got to go with just the Broncos at home. I got to go with them. I think they offensively still have more talent than the Ravens do. So just because of that, I think defenses are pretty stacked evenly, but I got to give Broncos the edge there on the offense.
Yeah, I'm going with Broncos all day in this one, probably by a couple touchdowns. I'm not a big fan of Denver when they start losing the game, maybe down by a couple scores, but as long as they're up, they're very, very strong. And we both like C.J. Anderson quite a bit, even in this matchup, which is a little bit tougher. The Giants traveling to the Cowboys. This is a big-time Sunday Night Football matchup. Yep. Let's start off with the Giants, man. I'm a big fan of this offense because Ben McAdoo, he made a big-time change in this offense last year. Started off early season when Rashad Jennings was having some success. He fell off, and then you had Odell Beckham. So now you have the beginning of this season, everybody's healthy with the exception of Victor Cruz, who wasn't healthy last year anyways. Big fan of this offense. I think they're going to produce quite a bit.
Yeah, I think they are too. I think Eli Manning is kind of getting to that point now to where we can say that he is good enough to be able to put up big numbers for most games. I know he's actually your starting quarterback right now.
Yeah.
And I feel good about him, and I still feel good about this Cowboys defense. I mean, they have made some improvements, but I still think this Cowboys defense can be passed on. I think Odell Beckham's probably going to have a lot of success in this game. And look for much of the same from Eli Manning. So, but
Ruben Randall, what about him?
I like Ruben Randall. He's going to be the number 2 he's going to be the number 2 even if Victor Cruz gets healthy. He'll be more the slot receiver. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Ruben Randall is a guy that's really been pushed down in a lot of drafts. Probably wasn't even drafted in some people's drafts. Guy you can probably still pick up. And I mean, Ruben Randall has shown in the past that he can make plays. He can score touchdowns. So. Anytime that's a number 2 receiver in a passing offense like the Giants, you probably want to use him.
Yeah, I agree. Dallas Cowboy. Last thing with the running backs, man. I think Rashad Jennings will be decent. I'm worried that you might even have Andre Williams vulture some touchdowns.
Yeah.
It's really going to be a weird situation
I don't really
there.
like
Shane Vereen.
Yeah, I don't really care for the running game too much.
I like Rashad Jennings from a real-life standpoint, other than the fact that he's injury-prone, and you'll probably see an injury.
Yeah, so, I mean, he might start the season off good. We'll see if he can last.
Yeah, I'm not too big on any of the Giants running backs in this game in particular. Of course, we love the wide receiver there, Odell Beckham. Even Ruben Randall should have some production in this game. And as we said, start Eli Manning. At least I'm a fan of him. And none of the defenses in the NFC East are very impressive at all. Tony Romo and the Dallas Cowboys, they have an easy matchup. Of course, the Giants in the NFC East, so all their offensive players have plus matchups, including Dez Bryant.
Yeah, exactly. And the biggest question with the Cowboys is the running game. Who's going to get the more carries and who's going to be the guy starting the game off? We think Joseph Randall's probably going to start the game off, but from what we've seen in preseason so far, actually Darren McFadden has looked better than all of them.
I think he's getting the start.
So, I mean, Darren McFadden is the guy that you want to hold on to and see what happens in this game, see how they use him.
Would you start Randall?
I couldn't
considering where you drafted him.
I couldn't start either of them right now. I took Joseph as soon as I started hearing the committee thing, and then how McFadden and watch a preseason and seeing McFadden actually look better than Randall. It really just made me not even want to draft a single player from them. But to me, I think McFadden is the guy to look at early and see if he can hold up. I mean, because in the past, I mean, we've seen some good games out of McFadden, but it seems like with a good game comes a game where he's injured for 2 weeks or something.
Exactly.
Little nicks and bruises where it's like most guys you think would still play, and for some reason he's out of the game. So it's.
I do like McFadden in this game in particular. I think he's one of those like weekly league, or I'm sorry, like daily league or whatever you want to call it, starters. I would definitely start him and bulk up on some other positions. You do have the owner / GM of the Dallas Cowboys, Jerry Jones. He's a graduate and someone who's a proud advocate of the University of Arkansas, where Darren McFadden comes from. So look for him to get some play. I know that sounds crazy, but that's the one team where that really does have an influence.
Yeah.
As far as their receivers are concerned, would you start Terrence Williams?
No. I lost trust in him a while ago. I mean, he's one of those guys that every once in a while will have a good game, but
he's like Marcus Colston Jr. for me.
Exactly.
Too random.
It's not consistent enough. I mean, obviously, Dez Bryant is probably going to have a big game. I mean, he's one of those receivers that's going to have probably a big game almost every week this season.
What about Jason Witten?
But yeah, Jason Witten is Mr. Dependable on this team. I mean, he's the guy that Romo's going to go to when he's having trouble or when he needs to make a big play. May get a touchdown here or there. Probably going to have 60, 70 yards receiving, somewhere around there. But my thing with Witten is he's got to be touchdown dependent. I mean, he's got to score touchdowns to be able to have a tight end. If we're talking tight ends that are going to put up decent points every week, I think Witten kind of falls out of that unless he does start scoring touchdowns.
Yeah, I like Witten a little bit this year for sure. Without DeMarco Murray, I think that's going to add a lot of production to him.
He's really the number 2 guy right now in the passing game. So
no doubt. Well, who are you picking here for Cowboys Giants? I'm picking the Giants on the road. A lot of hype for the Cowboys. They're going to lose this game, and then people are going to question if they got, should they have gotten rid of DeMarco Murray? It's taken too much of that threat away from the offense.
Yeah, and that could be a very good point. I got to go with the Giants in this one as well. It's a tough one. I easily could see if the Cowboys play good and for some reason that running trio works, then I think the Cowboys can beat them. I like you said, I think it was a mistake letting Murray go. How do you let one of the better running backs in the league go when it's working? It doesn't make too much sense to me, so I think because of that, the Giants are going to win. I see just a lot of more upside with the Giants right now than the Cowboys.
And I see this.
It's weird, too.
Oh, yeah.
It's weird to say that.
I see this being a shootout. None of these defenses are good. Unfortunately, Dallas loses their number 1 cornerback, Orlando Scandrick. That was their best cornerback from last year. He's out.
Yeah, and that plays right into Odell Beckham.
Oh, yeah. So this will be a shootout, which will be great for the NFL. They're going to love this one. Primetime game.
And for fantasy.
Oh, yeah. So I'm going to pick the Giants, as are you. Let's move to the 2 Monday Night Football games. The Philadelphia Eagles. This is a strange team. It's one of those teams we know is going to produce, but they're led by Sam Bradford. We've seen nothing from him in the past. A lot of people are very optimistic about him from a fantasy perspective. And they are going against the Falcons, who are led by Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, 2 dependable guys. The Eagles, do you think Jordan Matthews can handle a number 1 wide receiver role?
I think he can. I mean, I think we kind of started seeing that towards the end of last year, that he is that kind of receiver that can do that. Everything we've heard about him in training camp and in preseason so far would make you to believe that, he is that guy, that number 1 that they're going to use. And really, he's an explosive player, so it's going to be fun to watch him.
Mm-hmm. What about Nelson Aguilar?
Nelson Aguilar is one of those guys, and this is what's going to be great for them. Now you have Matthews. They're both young, but these guys are extremely talented. Aguilar can make plays. He's one of the probably best pure slot receivers that we're going to see come up through college. And you add that, you got Riley Cooper's your guy that's going to be able to go deep. Really, it rounds off that receiving core, and it's going to help Bradford out. I mean, if they can keep Bradford healthy, he is a good quarterback. I think he can move the ball, he can get it done. And then, I mean, damn, you got DeMarco Murray now, so run the fucking football for once.
Yeah, now, I think this is going to be a well-timed offense while Sam Bradford's healthy. But when will he go down? When is the injury to Bradford going to go down? Because that's going to throw this offense completely off, led by Mark Sanchez. Are you starting Ryan Matthews? Of course, DeMarco Murray, I think everybody's going to start him.
No, I mean, he's a guy you just need to hold on to until if DeMarco Murray gets hurt. But you also got to worry about once Ryan Matthews in, you got to worry about him getting hurt too. So he's another guy that's been injury prone most of his career. So, but yeah, I mean, I hold on to him, but no way in hell I'm starting him this week. I mean, it's going to be the DeMarco Murray show, and if it's not, they're stupid.
Would you start Sam Bradford?
No, I couldn't. I can't start Sam Bradford. There's just not enough there for me. Let's see what he can do. This is a whole new offense coming together, so let's see what's going to happen first before, there's not enough guarantee for me. I mean, talking about Fantasy Week, you got, 13, 12 weeks in most leagues, 14 weeks, and you don't want to come out starting a guy that you're not confident is going to do good. So.
But what about in a daily league?
Daily league for the value? Probably, yeah. He's definitely the sleeper for the value. Right.
Mm-hmm. With, possibly.
But I really think they are going to run the ball a lot. I think that's what the Eagles thing is going to be. I mean, it's kind of hard to say that because Chip Kelly likes to throw the ball, but you got DeMarco Murray. I think he's going to get real creative with DeMarco Murray and just really let him, kind of be that guy again. So
I agree. I think they're going to win this game. They're traveling to Atlanta, so we have Julio Jones, who we all like.
Yep.
Of course, Matt Ryan, you're probably going to start him as a lower top 10 quarterback.
Yeah, for sure.
Would you start any of their other players?
No. I mean, Roddy White's hurt, so I can't go with him. I mean, normally I think I would probably start a Roddy White as like a number 4 receiver, flex play, or something like that. But with him banged up, I mean, he's having to get his knees drained right now. Mm-hmm. That just doesn't sound good. It's not a guy that I'm going to put my trust in. So, and it's sad to see. I mean, Roddy White's been a really good receiver for a while, so hopefully he can get back and be good and be healthy for this team. But, yeah, really only those two guys on offense. I mean, because the running game is pretty much non-existent.
No Devontae Freeman or Tevin Coleman?
I don't really like either one of those guys until I see something. So, I mean, Devontae Freeman... We'll see. I think he's probably the better running back just because he's got a little more experience from last year. But a lot of people like Coleman. So
yeah, we talked about Duke Johnson. I feel like those guys are very equivalent to them.
Yeah.
A great pass catcher. So if they can do damage with the pass catching game, that's going to be great for fantasy. But from a rushing perspective, I just don't look for them to bust anything out.
Yeah, and whole new offensive system they're running too. So that's another thing to think about.
So who are you picking in this one? Like I said, I'm picking the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I think I'm already going to go with the Eagles. The Falcons, the Falcons did pretty good, decent in the draft, but I just don't think this year's the year. I mean, maybe next year, year after that, that defense is finally going to start looking pretty good again. But I just don't see enough for them this year, so I'm going to go with the Eagles.
Yeah, I agree with you. This is going to be an interesting game to watch. Monday Night Football, the first out of 2 games. So, final game that we're going to talk about is part of our Week 1 preview.
Yeah.
The Minnesota Vikings. Adrian Peterson is back. We're going to have to wait to the very last game to watch him in San Francisco. Man, this is definitely a strange one.
It is a strange one, and it's going to be interesting to see what we're going to get out of the 49ers defense. I mean, you got Bowman back, which is a big plus for that defense, but I don't know, man. I haven't been able to trust this 49ers defense. Last year, I didn't like them at all. So this year, I don't know if they're going to be able to do enough to be able to shut down this Vikings offense because, for once, I'm actually going to say this Vikings offense does look pretty sound.
Yeah, it's loaded. They bring in Mike Wallace. We like Charles Johnson, especially if he takes on a number 2 role. I think he'll be the number 1 there in Minnesota.
Yeah, for sure.
Pushing Wallace in the number 2 role. And Adrian Peterson, how do you think he's going to do against the 49ers?
I think he's going to be good. I mean, I think we're going to see the Adrian Peterson we all knew. I don't think the year off is really going to affect him that much. The guy is a beast at running back, was one of the best running backs in the league, probably can return back to that level because now the Vikings have a passing game. You got Teddy Bridgewater, who last year I thought was the best rookie quarterback in the league. I think he's going to get better this year. You got the weapons. Mike Wallace now adds another element to their game. Hopefully, going to have a healthy Kyle Rudolph, who they're going to use the tight end position. So
don't forget about Jadarius Wright, and I think that's going to hurt the two Vikings receivers from a fantasy perspective. From a real life perspective, Bridgewater's loaded.
Maybe. I mean, Bridgewater does like Charles Johnson. I think that's why a lot of people think that he's going to be that number one guy. He's already looked better than Mike Wallace has in preseason, so they've already got that connection. Mike Wallace is still a solid receiver as well, but we have seen him struggle with chemistry with quarterbacks. A lot of deep balls that aren't connecting on. We saw that in Miami with Tannehill. Not really sure whose fault that was, so we'll see if that bounces around. I think anytime you get these receivers, they go to a new team, they start off pretty decent because they feel they're in a new situation. They feel good about themselves, and I think you're going to see that out of Mike Wallace starting off the season. Will it last all season? We'll see, but had pretty good numbers last year for Mike Wallace. So
yeah, not a lot of yardage surprisingly, but he turned into a red zone threat.
Touchdown freak.
What the hell was that about?
Yep, so.
I'm worried about Adrian Peterson. A lot of people picked him number 1 overall. Now, I like him as a pretty big-time threat here, of course, but taking the whole year off, can he stay healthy the entire season? That's a red flag to me. And, he's an older running back.
Yeah, but this guy's a freak in nature. I don't know if it's going to really affect him that much. I mean, as long as he doesn't go beating his kid or doing anything stupid again this year, I think you're pretty safe at having him as your starting number 1 running back. And they're going to run the shit out of him. He had a year off last year. They're going to make him pay for having that year off.
Yeah, right.
They're going to give him a ton of carries. And it's only going to help the rest of the offense when he does good. So,
do you like either of the San Francisco 49er running backs?
Oh,
Reggie Bush or Carlos Hyde?
I don't like either of them, to be honest with you. I mean, Carlos Hyde is probably going to get your goal line work, so he might be the only one that's worth putting in your lineup. But I still haven't seen enough from Carlos Hyde. I mean, I thought he looked terrible last year. He was slow, getting off the ball, did not read holes, and really they stopped using him in the goal line situations, and that's what he was supposed to be used for. So he's got to really prove a lot to me before I start thinking about really starting him on a consistent basis.
Can't start Reggie Bush.
Reggie Bush now. I mean, we've playing like the past 2 or 3 seasons. We're always like, oh, let's keep Reggie Bush. I think he's going to do something. It just never happens, man. It's just,
he blew up in the championship week for those who started him then.
2 years in a row, yeah, he did, but that was about it.
So as far as the wide receivers are concerned, I like Anquan Bolden, but Torrey Smith is added to the mix.
Torrey Smith is added to the mix, but from what I've heard, it's not the Torrey Smith that we knew and loved in Baltimore. Apparently, he's not quite the receiver that he was there as far as being able to get the deep passes and be able to burn the secondary. So that might hinder him a little bit. I have heard that he is kind of banged up. He is kind of a player that's been around for a little longer, so we might not see that production that we saw in Baltimore. Bolden's a guy that he's always going to do good. He's a big receiver. He's a possession guy. As long as Kaepernick can get him the ball, he's going to put up constant stats. Probably the only receiver that I can start for the 49ers, and maybe the only player on that offense that I can start.
No Vernon Davis?
No Vernon Davis. Vernon who? That guy still plays?
Fell off last year, man.
Oh, yeah. Like, what happened to him last year? It's crazy.
Yeah, I do like Anquan Bolden. I think he's very equivalent to Steve Smith. Funny, they're kind of playing the same kind of career here.
Yeah.
Of course, Bolden with a big possession type, Steve Smith sometimes being deep threat. But I like both those guys a lot this year. And I would start Bolden and nobody else on the San Francisco 49ers. It's crazy to say at this point how far they've fallen off.
They've fallen off.
Colin Kaepernick is undrafted.
I mean, their best linebacker last year retired after his first season. Yeah. So
he's like, damn,
it's crazy. I actually saw a special on the 49ers, man, how they've been losing players. It's really been crazy. It's something I've really never seen that happen to a team before. I feel for all San Francisco fans because, I mean, you guys had a damn great contender in the NFC for 2 years in a row, and then all of a sudden it's just like, whoa, what happened? We are terrible now. What the hell?
That said, I'm going to pick the San Francisco 49ers because I think Colin Kaepernick will have a decent amount of rushing yards.
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe Carlos Hyde picks off a touchdown. Anquan Bolden. I mean, Minnesota on the road against
I like the Vikings defense. I like the Vikings defense this year.
They're loaded.
Yeah, they're loaded.
Harrison
Smith.
Smith.
Flying all over the field.
They drafted the new guy, what's his name? Eric. I forget his name. It escapes me at this moment. But they basically said he's not a starter. Even though when he was out there in preseason with the number 1s and number 2s, he looked like a beast. There's no way they're going to hold him off the field.
Yeah, like I said, a lot of these teams in preseason, they like to hide things. Like they like to not let stuff come out. So They want to make you believe the guy's not going to play, but he's probably going to play. And I got to go the Vikings over the 49ers, man. I just think the 49ers, they're just going to have a really rough season. And I like the Vikings, man. On both sides of the ball, I think they're pretty good. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's going to be a good one to watch as well. It's good to see, even though they're not the best teams, you have great matchups on Monday Night Football. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, 2 games.
And hopefully you guys aren't going against Adrian Peterson in the last moments of Monday night. That'll be a cool one to watch. Minnesota Vikings, man, you got to start those guys we talked about. Charles Johnson, just to finish off, would you start him against the 49ers? I think he'll get a touchdown.
I have Charles Johnson, so I'm contemplating either him or Ruben Randall this week. So they're on the bubble. I haven't made my decision yet.
Damn.
Yeah, they're on the bubble there. One. So
at least they both have decent matchups.
Yeah, exactly. So
thanks for joining us for our Week 1 preview, guys. Let us know if you have any questions. We'll answer you before the game. And for those of you listening to this before the kickoff, Thursday night, Pittsburgh versus New England. Final take. I mentioned a couple things that maybe convinces you New England needs to be stripped of the championships here. If we're golfing and I'm cheating, if we're playing poker, I mean, if you get caught cheating a little bit, they're going to strip you those titles, man. How about boxing? What if you just have a little bit of metal in your gloves? Just a little bit.
Yeah, but if it's all off hearsay, can you be held accountable?
It's not hearsay. They have video evidence from Spygate, but Commissioner Goodell destroyed the evidence.
Yeah, Spygate, that one there. But exactly, destroyed the evidence. There's no evidence at this point, so there's nothing we can do about it. Just like Tom Brady destroyed his cell phone, so there's no evidence, can't do anything about it. Who knows if anything's going to come up over this ESPN report about them stealing team sheets before the game.
It's fucked up, man.
It's interesting, but like I like to say, where there's smoke, there's fire.
I'll tell you what. Even if the Patriots cheated last year, man, the Seahawks did not deserve the championship.
No,
they failed that way too bad, man.
Pete Carroll does not deserve
Belichick probably didn't even celebrate. He's like, well, damn, I won that one, I guess.
We got lucky there. I mean,
Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks again for joining us, guys. If you're Patriots fans, you are, man, I don't even know what to say at this point. You bastards should not have the Super Bowl championships.
And they got their quarterback now for the whole season. So
what the hell?
Congratulations, New England.
And a lot of people say, oh, well, they're great. Well, it's pretty easy to be great when you know the other team's plays, right?
Exactly.
And they never really have the best players in the world. Yeah, they have Brady, and they had Randy Moss.
We always say Belichick's so good at shutting down their defense. Is it?
I wonder why.
Something else, exactly.
They don't have the top-flight receiver. They don't have the top-flight running back. They do have Gronk, though.
It's going to get them eventually, though. It's going to get them eventually. No one gets away. When there's that much smoke, no one gets away. I mean,
5 championships later.
Yeah, that's true.
Catch you guys for Week 2. Enjoy the festivities. Thank God the kickoff is here. As always, I'm RJ for KMAC. Stay trippy.